Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts and we're back with another video, and this is going to be a review of The Brutalist. And I really think that this film right here is an absolute masterpiece that I totally recommend you watch. And it is definitely worth its 3 hour and 45 minute runtime. And personally, I see this film as a meditation of how we look at art. I'm even going to be breaking down the plot of this film, and it is all broken down into 3 parts, called The Enigma of Arrival, The Hardcore of Beauty, and The First Architecture Biennial. And I'm just going to let you know that there will be spoilers in this review. So after escaping post-war Europe, Lazotov, who is a Hungarian Jewish Holocaust survivor and architect, comes to America to rebuild his life, his career, and his marriage with his wife. On his own in a strange new country, he settles in Pennsylvania, where a wealthy and prominent industrialist named Harrison Van Buren recognizes his talent, and when Lazotov gets invited to a party, him and Van Buren have a conversation. And he says that he wants him to build a monument as a way to honor his dead mother. And he even promises that he will bring Lazotov's wife and niece from Europe to America, which he agrees on. And as the film goes on, things start to get worse for him. I want to talk about the opening scene of this film, and I really think that this right here is one of the greatest opening sequences ever put in a film. And it shows Lazotov walking from the ship he was on into the United States. And everything here, from the camera work to the music, which I will talk a little bit more of in this video, was absolutely fantastic. And that right there is how you open a film like this one. Adrien Brody's performance as Lazotov was just amazing. And it's another great example of why he is such a good actor. Adrien Brody brings so much depth to his character, and it makes him feel human in a way, which he does a good job at. Just look at The Pianist, for example. One thing I liked about his character was his obsession with ambition through the art that he creates, and his struggling relationship with his wife brings a lot to the story, and the film does a fantastic job with making it feel compelling and real. Also, his use of heroin is portrayed in a way that is raw and tragic, and the more he uses it, the more it starts to change his personality. Like when he fires Gordon and has an argument with his wife in a car. The cinematography and production design is probably one of the best things about this film, and I just want to let you know that this film had a budget of $10 million. And here, it looks so much bigger than that. Also, an example of why I like the cinematography is that upside down shot of the Statue of Liberty. And I think that it is a representation of the American dream, which Lazotov becomes obsessed about. And it is one of the main themes of The Brutalist, and it captures that perfectly. Also, the framing of the shots were just something else, and it kind of fits the phrase, every frame a painting. I even heard that it got nominated for Best Cinematography at the Oscars, and from what I saw in this film, it totally deserves it. Felicity Jones absolutely killed it as Elspeth, and I think her performance in this movie is definitely one of her best. And even though we don't see her in the first half of the film, she is described through the letters that Lazotov sends to her about his time in America. And in the second half, we see her in a wheelchair due to osteoporosis, and we see her go through pain many times in this film, and the bed scene of where her character talks to Lazarov about everything he is and does is one of the best acting I have ever seen in a film. Guy Pearce did a great job as Harrison Van Buren, and his character starts off as a wealthy industrialist who helps out Lazarov. But as the film goes on, his personality changes. Like, for example, when at a dinner table, he insults Lazarov by calling him a guy that sounds like he shines shoes for a wage while he is with his wife. And when the two characters go into a tunnel, and this right here is where you see Harrison Van Buren for who he really is. When he rapes Lazarov while he is intoxicated and calls him a leech. Overall, this is a character that changes from a charismatic person into a complete scumbag. Also, I think that this character perfectly represents capitalism as a whole. And Guy Pearce completely made this role into one of his greatest performances of his career as an actor. Also, I totally recommend you watch Memento, which is probably one of Christopher Nolan's most underrated movies. And his performance in that movie was absolutely amazing. Also, I want to say that this is the first film in modern Hollywood that has an intermission. And it goes on for 15 minutes with a countdown clock. And it was all used perfectly. Also, I heard that the picture that was shown is actually when Lazarov and his wife got married, and it really adds a lot to the film, and it's a good way of introducing her to the audience. I will admit that this is what movies that have long runtimes like this one right here need, because I actually felt like this is a movie that respects the audience's time. And one thing I will appreciate is that this is a film that takes its time, and it doesn't waste any of it. And also, I'm gonna say this. This is a movie that needs to be experienced, and it uses its runtime to create an epic but tragic story about an architect and his drive and ambition to create his own masterpiece. And that is something we need more of nowadays. And it is a reminder of how great cinema can be. And one thing about this movie is, yeah, it's long, but it doesn't bore you to death when you look at the shit that comes out of woke Hollywood nowadays. Brady Corbett's directing of this film was pretty good, and he even directed films like Childhood of a Leader and Vox Lux, which stars Natalie Portman. And this film right here shows what he is capable of as a director, and I could definitely see that. He wanted this movie to be the next biggest achievement in cinematic history. And it all worked out perfectly. And not just that, but this is a film that takes a lot of risks, which is something that most movies today don't do anymore. And I will admit that while this is an amazing film that is a must watch, it did have some issues. Like how some of the characters were completely underdeveloped, and the second half was okay, but a bit weak. I'm going to explain the ending of the film. So, Elizabeth Toth arrives by walking with a stretcher at Harrison Van Buren's estate and calls him out for sexual assault in front of his family and associates. And then his son Harry gets pissed off and violently pushes her out And just before she is sent to her taxi, Harrison Van Buren disappears, and Harrison organizes a search party to find him, and it is implied that he may have committed suicide. And to me, Harry learned these habits from his father. And there is a scene while Sophia is sitting alone at a river, and then Harry then comes up to her and says if she wants to go out with him. And the film implies that he may have been trying to rape her by showing Sophia walking away from him. And I'm not sure if this analogy is 100% true, but I think it is pretty thought-provoking when you look at the mindset that the Van Burens have. So in 1980, Elspeth Toff has died, and Laszlo's work is shown at a community center, with Sophia giving a speech on how his personal life was an influence on his work. Like the fact that he built the monument as a way to resemble the concentration camps that he and his family were kept in. And she ends by saying a quote from her father: "No matter what the others try and sell you, it's not about the journey, it's about the destination." So basically, it's that quote, but flipped around. And her point suggests that the shit he went through in the past actually helped him to create works that later became admired and respected by everyone. So basically, The Brutalist was ultimately a character study about a man who had a tragic journey, but reached to where he wanted to go. And now, he is embraced by the world because of his creations. And to me, in my opinion, even though it gave amazing explanations for why Lazarov created his art, I thought the ending was misplaced. The soundtrack of this movie was just fantastic, and it gives this film a tone that is grand but haunting, and it perfectly shows how good this film is. And I'm gonna show you an example of it right now. Just to let you know, this is some real epic shit right now. The opening scene of this movie is definitely going to become one of the most iconic moments in cinema. Give thanks to the people that made this music because they did not hold back. I just want to let you know that this film is shot on VistaVision. Brady Corbett brought the intermission and VistaVision back. Wow! He wanted to make a film that will be remembered, and that is exactly what he wanted to do. And this is not a movie made for mainstream audiences, though. They'll never appreciate this film. This is the rating that this film got on Rotten Tomatoes. So, 94% from the critics and 80% from the audience. And it just shows you that this film has done with what it wanted to do. I want to talk about the controversy that this film got. So basically, AI was used to enhance the accents of Adrian Brody's and Felicity Jones's characters. And it got backlash for it. To me, even though that this is just a minor issue, this may show where cinema is going. And if stuff like this continues, it will not look good. In conclusion, this was an amazing film. And it is a masterclass when it comes to its acting, directing, and cinematography. And to me, this was one of the best films of 2024. And here are my lists of the best films. So, Nosferatu, Dune Part 2, The Substance, The Brutalist. All these films that I just mentioned were made by people that cared about telling a story that mattered. And it is something we don't get from Hollywood anymore. And I will definitely take this movie over Amelia Perez. And Hollywood, take notes. Because this is how you make a film that doesn't lecture the audience with DEI bullshit. And if Hollywood continues to do this, it will end badly for them. And guess what? It's already happening. And here is one more thing I want to say to you. Get woke, go broke. That is how it ends in the future. There is no good stuff for you if you start thinking of pushing your own woke message all the time. Because people don't want that. They're your customers, and you want to alienate them with garbage? Piss off, because we're not going to be paying our money to your crap anymore. And this is what the Brutalists have that most films don't. Most films just feel shallow. This one is a great example of how you make a film in the 21st century that is actually pretty good. And always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness.